Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kizma. This is episode 46, and today we are going to be talking about aligning with the universe. Welcome to the Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kizma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can sparkle just a little bit brighter each and every day. If what you hear speaks to your soul, go ahead and give us a rating and a review in iTunes. You can also find us on SoundCloud and Stitcher. And hey, if there's somebody in your life that you think would enjoy this podcast, go ahead and share it with them. Well, hey, Nick, what's going on?
Hey, Kizma.
How are you?
I am awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. The title sounds a little woo-woo today.
It sounds a little woo-woo, but I think it's pretty cool when we dive into it because you know us, like we like going deep and being real and bringing that grounded spirituality. So it works.
I think it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
When this idea first came to me, when I was thinking about it, like what I was thinking about was that show Billions.
I love Billions.
What a great show, right?
Oh, it's such a good show.
It was a Showtime show, if I remember.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Brody from Homeland.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then Tara from Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we're totally outing ourselves with some of our shows here. Yeah. And Paul Giamatti.
Right from John Adams.
Oh, John Adams. Yeah, he was
in the
brilliant.
John Adams
And so many
miniseries.
other things. One of my favorites with him was Sideways. I always loved that movie.
Did you just say a sage word?
No, Sideways.
Oh, I thought you slipped in that. Okay.
Si-
It's Friday, everyone. We're having fun. So anyways, back to Billions. Great show. If you haven't watched it, go Netflix it or do your Showtime or whatever and catch up because there's 2 seasons and it's dynamic and it's purposeful and it's got like tragedy and hope and all that stuff.
I think there's only 1 season so far, but
Really only one?
I think so. But regardless, it's awesome. And then there's this moment. I don't want to give away the whole thing, but towards the end of the season, he needs to make some. Then there's the train of truth coming
Truth.
right on through because he needs to make a deal.
He does need to make a deal.
And it's imperative that he make this deal. And what happens is basically he goes about it. If you're into sales, like you should totally watch this. If you're not, you should watch it anyway because it really speaks to this topic. But anyway, he needs to make the sale and he goes in the way that he thinks he's supposed to.
Yeah.
If you see the character, like, you know, he's got on his nice suit, you know, he's all clean and polished and everything like that. And he goes in and he tries to
be like the other deal people.
like he thinks they think,
Right.
like he thinks
They want him
to be. Yeah.
Right.
Like that. And he goes in like that and it does not go well.
No, because that's not him.
It's totally not him.
Blows it.
So he's walking through, he throws his suit jacket in the garbage and he goes and he buys his jeans and his hoodie.
And they were expensive jeans and a good hoodie.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
He looked cool. He was looking good.
He looked great. It's not like he, bought some junky thing at the dollar store. He bought a great, like what he would wear. Like
What he would wear.
He stepped into him. Like
Right.
basically is what
Completely.
happened. Walks into the next one and just knocks it out of the park.
Totally.
And there's a moment where he's just like, I can feel it. I am aligned. And you either jump on
the bullet train
now, or by this time next year, I won't know who you are.
Exactly.
You know?
Whoa.
It was so powerful.
It's a great scene.
I'm just totally not delivering it with his
I've watched it like
gravitas.
4 times.
Yeah.
I'm going to go watch it again after we do this. But he was aligned. He felt it. Like, I feel it. And I think that's how we talk about being aligned. You feel it. You know, it's like it's putting everything into proportion so it's working in the way you want it to. It's being congruent. It's being of integrity. It's being like buzzing, really having your field buzzing.
Right. It's a word that I think gets thrown around a little bit more without some clear ideas around what that is and how it translates. So I think first it makes sense for us to just kind of dive into that and talk a little bit about what it means to actually be aligned.
Right.
I think everybody has their own kind of definition with that, and that's cool, but it's not as helpful if we're not on the same page to create alignment. So what is it? You just mentioned a couple things about it, but can you tell us a little bit more? Like, what does it feel like? Like, what does it look like? How does, give us some more specifics?
Well, for me, alignment is living what you believe, living what you're talking, living what you're teaching, at least doing the very best you can to live that. Because I think it's very out of alignment and feels very funky and creates a lot of chaos when someone, say, is teaching or talking about something, but behind the scenes, they're completely different.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure. It's like there's a misalignment there. And it does come down to a feeling for a lot of people.
It will, yeah.
And it certainly, I know in myself too, like when I'm aligned or something is really aligned, like I definitely can feel that. But I want to go beyond the feeling because I think, like we've talked about so many times on this show, if you get caught in the feeling or looking for a particular feeling, it just gets really squirrely really fast.
This is true. And I just want to insert something here because I've been experiencing something new when I'm aligned. It is like, I'm not feeling it. I am just in motion. And it's as if I'm rising above it, right? So, I have like a couple of days where I do webinars, and we were talking about this earlier this week. Nick, it's like, all right, I got my system down, what I need to do on webinar day. And it's like, go. And then I'll have clients or I'll have a class or whatever. But it's like, I just kind of elevate up and just keep going without being affected. And that to me is alignment rather than, I'm feeling it in my heart. And oh man, that's cool. But it's like being in action in the world and doing so easily and effortlessly. To me, that's alignment.
Yeah. And it's that, I think, as we were talking about this, what really came out as the common thread is the action that threads through everything, right? So it's all connected through this thread of action and how that creates a sense of momentum in your life. Like I just look at it, when I look at being aligned, it's like just having everything in its right place.
Exactly.
So it's not a feeling as much as it is just a direct knowing that everything's in its right place. Let's go.
Exactly.
And you bring up something really interesting around this. I think, maybe we can talk about it a little bit more later as well, but the system that supports it.
Order, right? It's like going underneath, when we're talking about aligning with the universe, if it's okay if I bust into this, because I think systems are part of the laws of the universe.
Yeah, I would agree.
So aligning with the universe, what does that mean? Well, the universe has these divine laws. We talked about in episode 45. If you haven't listened, go listen. If you listen again. But divine order is one of the laws of the universe. It's the first law of the universe, right? The universe is based and created upon order. You are created upon order. So think about it. If you want to be aligned, you've got to have preceding it some sort of system or plan or order in place to line everything up.
Yep, exactly. And I think when we circle back around to that at the end, I'll share a few more thoughts about that. But for right now, for everybody out there, I think just give a thought to like what it's like for you to be aligned and get beyond, if you can for yourself, just that like a feeling, like it just feels right or whatever. Like really take a deeper look below the surface. For me, it's looking at my day and looking at the activities on it and just being like, yes, I totally got this. Let's go.
Yes, certainty. Certainty is the word that comes to me. Alignment gives you certainty. And no matter what you're doing in the world, whether you're raising a family, whether you're running a business, whether you work at a company if you have certainty, people are drawn to that and you just get stuff done.
Right. So it's actually like, the certainty is a result.
It is a result of being aligned.
One of the results of being aligned is you just feel really certain in your action,
right?
And certain in where you're at. It can show up in a relationship of just, and I think that's probably the biggest thing when we work with people, especially individually, but also, in other groups and things like that, is how it's creating that sense of alignment for people. And when people are aligned, they can go faster, they can go further, and they can do it with less stress.
And they have more fun because there's not all this chaotic, frenetic energy and these ups and downs and all around. It's like, boom, I'm on the bullet train.
You love that bullet train.
I love the bullet train. I'm okay with the train of truth too. It doesn't go as fast as the bullet.
It's no bullet train, but it's got its own charm for sure. So alignment, and it's essential component. When you think about the opposite of that, it's like, what is that? That's like chaos. Like everything is going every which way. Right. And there's a lot of opposing forces.
Lack of truth, lack of order.
Right. And so if you had think about it as a building.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a building that was all kind of the girders are all skewed in different directions and it wasn't designed that way. Yeah. The bricks are all uneven or whatever.
Foundation is cracked and crooked.
How strong is that building? Not very strong. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's a simple structure.
Right.
And so, but when it's in alignment, when it's in integrity might be another word for that, although that has some other connotations around it. But basically when it's in alignment, it's much more strong.
Right.
And much more clear.
Yeah.
So when we dial that down to the individual, what that actually allows in a person's life is just way more ease.
Right.
Way less chaos and a much more certainty in your action.
Completely.
Yeah. So just a more stability.
Life is easier.
So let's talk about some of the different aspects to be aligned.
Cool.
First, I think is just as we've talked about, is being aligned within yourself.
With yourself.
So we talk about that as being aligned with your soul energy.
Right.
If this word soul is weird for you or
think of life energy.
Life
force.
I think about it as the fundamental energy of the human.
I just wouldn't say that if soul's weird to you, just get over it. You need to start talking about soul if you're not. It's very important.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that, but I think that people, I totally agree with you, by the way, but it's also that there's some different definitions of what that is.
I understand.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to understand we come from a very grounded spiritual place. And I get annoyed with these marketers you can't use the word soul. But you know what? People got to use the word soul because you got one. But anyways, okay.
I think of it just as a term in terms of fundamental energy. It's basically it's a fundamental energy of who you are, and your personality will expand from that or grow out of that.
Right.
So we've talked about this, fundamental energy of divine love, divine order is one of them, divine power, divine self-expression, divine wisdom, divine truth, compassion, creation, so you've got these different energies, and it's basically just being aligned with who you are at the deepest possible level.
Right.
So what's important is knowing who you are.
Right.
And if you were to ask, yourself or somebody in your life, who are you?
Right.
They come up with all these different terms, and different things. And most of them are just going to be their job or their gender.
Right, I'm a teacher. I'm an accountant. I'm a yoga teacher. That's not who you are. That's what you do.
Right. It's just not, so we're looking at more of a fundamental level.
Right.
What is that? And what is the energetic tone of that? And how does that function in your life? So it's basically the first step of that is just knowing who you are.
Right.
Because when you're out of alignment with that, kind of like in Billions, or how many times have you tried to do something the way that everybody told you that you're supposed to do, and you're following all the instructions just like a good little student, and then it just falls flat on its face.
Oh, nasty.
Right? It's just so frustrating.
It is.
And I've done that.
Trying to fit somebody else's perception of who you should be, it just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work. And it's painful and it's frustrating because it's man, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing.
I do want to insert, however, when you are aligned, with your soul energy, your life force energy, if you are required to show a different facet of yourself, you can do so much easier. So for instance, there's going to be times where someone who doesn't normally wear a suit, maybe they need to wear a suit, an occasion or whatever. But when you're aligned, you'll step into that just easily and effortlessly. You won't feel weird because you're still very much who you are.
Exactly. It's
you're just putting a different pair of clothes on. You're not changing who you think you should be.
Right. Right. But you can play different roles with more flexibility and
play
ease.
Different roles. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the inner conflict. When you're trying to do something or you're trying to follow Myers-Briggs told me I was this. And so you're trying to
annoying.
fit into their thing. And then you're well, that doesn't that's not me. So that creates inner conflict.
Totally.
Negative, limiting beliefs, that creates inner conflict. So if you have something that you're going for, a goal or a mission or whatever, and then you've got all these beliefs that are causing doubt and frustration and anxiety and all, that's a misalignment.
Right.
That's something internally that's going to cause inner conflict.
Right.
So you go for the thing and then you freak out, right? Well, something's out of alignment.
Right, exactly.
You know? And that's a sure sign when you've got stress and anxiety and conflict. Sure sign.
Always, whatever is going on around you is a carbon copy of what's going on inside of you. I say that all the time on my trainings and my webinars. And so when you are aligned, people, it's like, oh, you look around. Of course, the world is still the world, right? The world's always changing up and down all around. But your ability to manage the world is like, I got this.
Yep. Certainty comes back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the second piece of this that I think is really important is aligning with your mission, with your ideal in life.
Right.
So again, it comes down to that fundamental question of what do you want? Like, or what is your why? Or what are you actually here to do? If you ask, this is another question that I found that people are just dumbfounded. Why are you actually here?
Yeah, right.
What are you here to do? What is your life mission?
Right.
And it's just, people are totally perplexed.
Yeah.
So that's important because let's say that your GPS can tell where you're at right now, and then you start driving, but you'd never give it a destination.
Yeah.
Well, you're just driving around. You can go in circles. You can drive cross country. You can just zigzag all over the place, and it doesn't really matter because you're not going anywhere.
Exactly.
And you might see some awesome things and have a really nice ride, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing what you set out to do or doing what you're here to do.
Right.
So this is the other end of that says, okay, here's where we are. This is who I am, and you get really aligned with who you are, which is immediately going to help you be more powerful in your life and more certain. But then when you put the other end of that, the other pin in the map that says, I'm going here.
Yes.
That is now creating an alignment in the world that's super powerful for you to go get results.
Exactly.
Right.
And maybe going there is, I am going to be a better human. Like, it doesn't mean you have this huge thing you have to go and do in the world, but maybe you're going to be a better human. Maybe you're going to have more patience. Maybe you want to make more money. Maybe you want to have a better relationship or be a better parent. All of these things are going somewhere.
You know, you're touching on something that is, I think, a key component of this piece as well, is keeping it simple.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's like a lot of times people can create all kinds of chaos by setting out this, I got to do this. Like, they're comparing themselves to others of, I got to create this huge mission and I'm here to do all this and change the whole world. And it's like, wow, like that's a lot, like, why don't we just keep it simple?
Yeah.
And that's really where, when you know who you are, and when you can connect that directly to your mission or your ideal for what you want to create with your life, it's like, it doesn't need to be more complicated than that.
There's a lot of power in simple, because when it's simple, chances are there's more of that single pointed focus. We talk about the one thing, that single pointed focus, and having that simplicity or just like that straight line, it's really powerful.
Yeah. It just lets you contain the energy in a much more powerful way. Swamiji used to always talk about this, wind can go, in a million different directions, but when wind is really focused in one direction, it's, it's hugely powerful. Light, same way, it's like you've got the, light that's just kind of diffuse, but then you focus it into a laser beam and it's like, you can do major things. Or water,
Right.
When it has that sense of focus about it, that's where it becomes powerful. And so where a lot of people, I think, really miss on this one is like, there's like 5 million things and all these different pieces, and they want to create this great big vision, and they start going after all of it all at once. And that's
I know that feeling.
That is not alignment. Yeah. Do you know that feeling?
It's not. It feels yucky.
Yeah, it feels very overwhelming.
It gets exciting at first, and then you're like, what have I done?
Yeah, what's going on? And then it's like, now you've just created a whole monster that is sucking your life and your energy and not providing the value that you want in the world. So it'll have effects on your money too. But that's beside the point. Really, the biggest and most important thing here is, I think, just keeping it simple. And you got point A, which is, hey, this is who I am.
Right.
And that's what we call, this is one that has stuck around for a long time, is radical authenticity.
Radical authenticity. Hashtag that one, everyone.
Hashtag radical authenticity. And it's like, it's just being so true to who you are.
Yes.
That you can stand in that and not give a care about what anybody else in the world thinks.
That's really pure alignment right there.
It is.
It really is. Even if you're aspiring to go elsewhere to create something to do, like alignment is the radical authenticity.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's point A. And then point B is basically like as simple as I'm going there, Right. And I think you put it so beautifully. It doesn't have to be this big, huge thing. Like it can just be, I want to be this human. Mm-hmm. This is who I really want to be. This is how I want to show up in my life. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's so powerful. And you see the power in that simplicity, because then you can just focus your efforts towards that and you are good to go. And you get to live and breathe in that alignment in everything that you do.
Totally.
It's freaking powerful.
It is.
So let's talk about the divine laws then.
Yeah. Just a little recap, because they're on our podcast last time. But if you want to be in alignment with the universe, you've got to be in alignment with the universal laws of truth. And there are universal laws of truth from which the planet was creating, your circulatory system was created, your energetic circulatory system, the law of cause and effect, sometimes referred to as karma. But one of the laws, just to recap, and I mentioned, is the divine order.
Yep. And these are important because, point A and point, like being aligned with yourself, like that's awesome. Having something in the world to go after. It's like, now how do you move towards that in the most, for lack of a better word, harmonious way, the most natural way? Well, it's following the natural laws.
Right.
So being aligned with those laws is going to help everything move smoother.
Right.
Because that's the way that it occurs. So divine order is just recognizing that there is an underlying fundamental order in everything.
Yes.
So you talked about systems before, which I thought was brilliant. It's like, you connect a simple system or process to let you become aligned to the task.
Right.
Like calibration, or something like that, which is this little process that you take yourself through that's intones you mentally, emotionally, and energetically to do what you're here to do.
Exactly.
And there's a different alignment, to doing, say, like order-based tasks versus doing creative-based tasks.
Right.
There's a different sense of alignment because you're basically aligning with a different type of energy.
Mm-hmm.
But divine order is making sure that everything is in its right place and everything is working based on that system. So if you were to think for yourself, what little processes or systems that you have in your life that just maybe set you up for the best day ever. This is where morning routine comes into effect for people, morning ritual, those sorts of things. That's basically using that system of
diet, exercise,
right.
etc.
It's using those systems and using the law of divine order to make sure that you're supported, make sure that you're showing up in the way that you need to.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, we move on to divine timing.
Oh, I have a great story about divine timing. Can I tell it?
Of course you can.
Of course, I would tell it anyways.
Yeah.
You said no. So it's about the podcast. It's the coolest thing. So my love of divine timing is that if something is showing up for you, man, take opportunity, like take action. Because so often it is right there and you're like, should I? I don't know if I should. Oh, I can't afford it, or this isn't right for me. But it is, like you've got that alignment feeling. So today, we were looking at the schedule ahead of recording podcasts, and I've been dying to have my dear friend Elizabeth D'Alto on, who's got an amazing podcast, Untamed Wild Soul Movement. It's just great. And she's going to be on and tell you guys all about it. But we had yet to set up a date to interview her. And it was like, when is it? And we decided we're going to be doing a lot of recording on Mondays. And today is Friday, right? So I said to Nick, gosh, I wonder if Elizabeth is free on Monday. This is really short notice. But when I get a hit like that, I listen and I go. So I just messaged her and I'm like, hey, any chance? I know it's late notice. Would you like to be interviewed Monday at noon? And she wrote back, she goes, you're not going to believe it. I just had a cancellation. I'm like, yes, divine right timing.
I'm so excited to have her on.
I know, it's going to be really great.
Cool. I love when that happens. With timing, you brought up a good point about that, where people tend to like kick it down the road a little bit.
Yeah, no, don't kick it.
Where it's like, oh, well, I'll wait, now's not the right time. It's like, that's not true. Like that's, if you're going to talk about like what's out of alignment, like when you're just like, no, later, like it's not the right time. Like now is the only time we have,
The power is now, right? I mean, all the greatest teachings, even Jesus, he taught a lot of like, your salvation is now, people. Like, come on.
Yeah, let's
go. Happening.
So it's recognizing that when something shows up for you, the time is now to take action. You would never get that opportunity. It could never show up in your world if you weren't ready for it.
Exactly.
Your brain might not be able to wrap itself around that and see the way through, but the law is such that there's no way that could happen if you weren't ready to take an action based on it.
It's divine right timing and your highest and best. There's another cute story. A dear friend of ours, Amanda, we have so many dear friends, and she was sharing this story about how, remember, she went in to buy this pair of shoes, and the shoes were like a couple $100, and she'd never spent that much on shoes before. And she loved them. They were awesome. They made her feel great. She had the money for them, but she talked herself out of them. And then the funniest thing is over the next 10 days or 2 weeks, she went around in these little shops and she bought stuff on sale, and it was stuff she could never return and stuff she really didn't like. And then she bought a pair of shoes that were cheap. And at the end of the day, she spent well over $200 on stuff she didn't want because she didn't get what she really wanted. So when you wait, you end up creating loss.
Yeah, you actually pay more.
And it pains me sometimes because I know I'll be having a conversation with someone and they're really interested in a program or a course, and it is the right time, and they don't have that element of faith to take the step. And I know it's going to create more loss, but there's only so much I can do, right? I'm not going to push someone or force them. But over the long run, if something's showing up that's going to be amazing for you, take it.
Yeah, you take it. You just recognize that that's this is now. Now is the opportunity.
The power is now.
The power of now. You don't need to read the whole book, everybody.
Just look at the title.
Just look at the title. So the third one that we're going to dive into here is, before we do that, with that divine timing, I think a great question for anybody to ask themselves was where are you talking yourself out of things?
Oh, perfect. Where are you talking yourself out of things? Stop it.
Stop it. Stop it. I almost talked myself out of that little Apple gizmo. Remember, it's such a silly little thing.
Yeah, we did this.
I almost did it.
We went
I
to
caught
the
myself.
store, and Apple's got this cute little is it like a dock that you put your phone on to charge?
Yeah, and it sits, you can put it anywhere, but I wanted it next to my bed.
It's such a Nick thing. Okay, it's such a Nick, it's not an appliance. What is it? It's a little
gizmo.
It's a gizmo.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's $50. I was like, but this is you. You're supposed to get it. So I bought it, and it's by his bed, and it's perfect. It's such a Nick gizmo.
Yeah. Yeah, you totally helped me out with that one. It was actually a really big insight for me of oh man, I totally did that.
Right.
I don't always like to own it, and here I am owning it on the podcast, but
good for you.
Yeah, I'll own it. I totally did it. I got cheap about the $50 thing, and I love it. I love it. I love putting a little phone.
It's so much better than that stupid hanging plug thing. Whatever.
Yeah, it was a mess. Yeah, now it's all clean and neat.
Right.
And it's there, and it's awesome, and it's such a me thing. But I almost talked myself out of it. So if you're talking yourself out of your next step, where are you doing that?
Yeah.
Because that's a really important question, because you're going to see, instead of talking yourself out of it, you can talk yourself into it.
Well, and also it's affecting parents. If you're talking yourselves out of something, what are your children picking up? You want them to be talking themselves into all their opportunities, into what they want to manifest, into the life they want to create. So it's a perfect example to demonstrate. And I'm not saying go spend all your money on stuff, but be involved, be the human you want to be, that when it's now, the time's now.
There's nothing more disturbing than hearing a parent talk their child out of a bigger vision for themselves, out of a dream or something like that. It's just it's horrifying, man. When you talk about soul crushing,
our people don't do that.
Soul crushing. So anyway, moving on to
expectation,
allowance,
the law of divine expectation or allowance. This is awesome.
Tell us all about it.
How many times, let's put it this way, how many times are you looking to create something, looking to do something, looking to meet somebody, and you doubt? You're like, oh, that's not going to work. And there's a mechanism, actually. It's sort of like this spiritual mechanism, kind of a negative etheric mechanism that many people do so they're not disappointed. Oh, it's never going to happen for me, because you don't want to get your hopes up and get disappointed. So behind the scenes on that is you just want to have so much objectivity that you go for it. And if you don't get it, you're just like, okay, what's next? You're not attached, but you still want to go for this ideal. So look at, where are you just talking yourself out of something instead of, I expect it to be so. I had a client today, and he's getting back into real estate, such an awesome human. And I'm like, you expect that deal to happen. You expect it. And even when, as we expect things, say at some point, divine right order, divine right timing, whatever, your higher self, it doesn't come to fruition like we want. You simply go next and you expect the next thing.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the force.
The force.
Like when somebody starts to really force it, and it actually isn't in order at this time. Like some other pieces need to align.
Right.
The personality starts to like, I'm going to make it happen, and it gets real forceful. That's kind of the other side of this. Is like, yeah, you expect it to happen, but you also allow it to happen in the way that it needs to.
Huge difference between the attracting something by force, which underneath force is doubt. There's no way somebody be forcing something if they didn't have doubt as an underlying layer.
Interesting.
Or attracting something by allowing it into your life through the law of expectation.
So what's something that somebody can do to just basically expect with more certainty or expect with more faith? Was that what you're saying?
I think it's faith. I think it's expected. Well, one thing you can do is like, just prepare for it and give thanks for it and visualize it. Say you really want a new house. Okay, if you want to buy a new house and you're looking for a new house, start preparing by cleaning out your current house. Like get rid of the old clutter and all of that and just expect it to be so. I mean, we violated this law because, do you remember it was like, we're like, there's something in the house that shouldn't be here. And this is funny. You guys are going to think we just lost our minds. I'm going to go for it. So I said to Nick, you check in with your intuition. I'm going to check in. You tell me the answer you get. And we both checked in. And without telling each other, we said it. It's the kitchen table.
Totally.
We got the same answer. So that kitchen table needs to go. Whatever reason, it doesn't belong to us anymore and it just needs to go. So Nick has been trying to sell. It's actually a really good table. It's just too big. It's got it's not right for us. And he's been wanting to sell it on Craigslist. And nobody's been looking to buy it. And I said, well, that's because we haven't picked out our next table.
Yeah.
We have not expected to sell it and replace it.
That's true. So to be continued.
To be continued, the kitchen table.
Let you know how the kitchen table saga unfolds. But yeah, I actually agree with you on that. It's like, oh yeah, we didn't really consider that piece. We kind of just moved right past it.
Yeah.
And
I think too, with expectation, like that certainty piece, just the divine law of being abundant and making that statement, like verbalizing, it is my divine right to have the perfect home to live in. It is my divine right to have, a partner who I love dearly and loves me. Voice it and then expect it to be so. Don't doubt, because doubt really constricts and diminishes manifestations.
Yeah, divine right, I think, freaks some people out. It can seem...
It is not entitlement.
It can seem entitled and it can seem arrogant.
It's not meant as that at all. It just look at, I always say this to my students, you're an individuation of the ultimate energy. So that ultimate energy, whether you want to call it Brahman or universe or God or source, doesn't matter to me. It is fully prosperous and abundant. So if you're an individuation of that, you by divine right are able to have those things. Be prosperous, be abundant, be loving, be connected, be healthy. Of course, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's gone on in the world and changed some energies and energetics. And so we're looking to unravel that. But connect with your unique ultimate energy. And by divine right, expect it to be so. Prepare for it humbly. Of course, humbly.
It's beautiful. Yeah, humbly. There's always two sides to the coin, right?
Yeah.
There's the expectation and the divine right, and then to do it with humility.
Oh, humility is very important there.
Yeah.
Because humility means you're in gratitude, you're preparing, you're not just sitting back on your butt going like, I'm going to get this. No, you have to be in action. The law of expectation is not without action, right? So to implement, integrate any kind of spiritual teaching, we've got to be in action.
Yep. Action is the common thread, right? It brings all these things through.
It really does.
And it expresses them into the world.
Yeah.
Like it lets them be in the world.
There's no alignment without action. Even if you're the monk sitting on top of the mountain meditating, that monk is breathing and the action is the breath and the connection to source.
Right. Right. Well, it's like the arrow, if you've got an aim and you only draw the string back just a couple inches, well, the arrow is just going to like flop and fall. Like you can have it perfectly aligned, but if if it's just going to drop halfway,
I think I'll just leave with one other example, Swami Parthasarathy, we're going to go there in December and see him. I'm so excited. He's a self-realized guru. He doesn't need to, he could go sit in the woods and truly be happy. but he's aligned, so he is still taking action. He gets up at 4:30. He'll teach classes. He'll speak with people. He's taking the actions that continues to embrace the alignment.
Yeah. And I can't think of a better example. Swamiji.
Yeah.
Always comes back to Swamiji.
It really does.
Yeah. He's got the stuff.
I love him.
So there you have it, everybody. I mean, alignment is key. It is such an essential, fundamental component in being aligned with who you are at the deepest level. And then aligning that with what you actually want, like clearly defining like what you want and where you're going.
Right.
And then following those divine laws so that you can move in that direction with the least resistance as possible, with as much ease and grace, and building as much momentum to go further and faster, and to let things show up for you in a way that's better than you could, your brain could have imagined.
Right.
You know, like that's just it. Like we could have gone around for weeks trying to coordinate with Elizabeth's busy schedule.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? She's busy. She's successful. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
and the voice came, message her. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. It's like things can come together with so much more ease than we think, you know? So whatever it is that you're going after, you know, make sure that it's creating this sense of alignment within who you are to what you want, and then using the laws to get there in the most powerful way possible.
Right.
So, yeah, so we've got a little support for you on this page. If you're on the podcast page, then you'll see an opt-in for our video series. It's a free video series, and they'll help you. The tools, the energetic tools that we teach in there, basically help you get grounded in yourself.
Yeah.
Right? It really addresses that fundamental piece of just kind of knowing and being in who you are. And then that allows more clarity for you to decide where you want to go, and then to have more awareness and more
great tools. Grab them if you haven't. Grab them. It's on sourcemovement.net/45. Is that our
zero? No, actually, this is 46. 046.
046.
So it's sourcemovement.net/INK046.
INK046 episode. I love it.
Yeah, we've been at the podcast for a little while now.
All right.
So go check out Billions if you haven't. You're gonna have to sit through the season,
it's so
most
good.
of the season, I think, to get to that moment that we talked about.
Right.
But it's
we just jumped to the last episode.
It's worth the ride, in my opinion.
It's worth the ride.
I really enjoyed the show.
We do a lot of like, so and so is divine creation, so and so's divine power.
Totally.
So it's like picking out everybody's soul energy. It's so fun.
And it's really cool to see how it expresses. But so go check that out. Check out on the podcast page. Check out the free energetic tools. I think you'll love them. They're so incredibly valuable to just help you be more awesome, right? And just be more you.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. It's been awesome. Can't wait to see you, hear you, be with you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Peace.
Namaste.